All right, Drake. Well, we normally talk MMA here, but I think it's time we went ahead and did our first pro wrestling video.
Ooh.
Yeah, woo-hoo-hoo. Yeah, that's right. We're talking some wrestling. We're talking the AEW Title Eliminator Tournament, which was announced this past Saturday on the Live Dynamite show. And let's go ahead and pull that up. This is the full tournament bracket. Interesting bracket. I will not what I expected when it was going to be revealed. I thought you would have a couple of different matchups here. Before I give my grade on just the bracket itself, Drake, what do you think? What do you think of these matchups?
It is not quite what I expected. I think two of these are very predictable. But that's okay, as long as they're good. I don't think predictability is a bad thing, as long as they turn out good. Maybe make you worry a bit in the middle of the match. We'll see how it goes. But I think it's fine. I think there's potential for any way you mix and match these guys. There's going to be some fun. So not maybe exactly some pieces that I would have wanted or expected in here, but I think it's going to work out. I have pretty good faith in AEW at this point. I think you do as well, Pat. But do you want my grade right now, or we're going to wait for the grades?
Yeah, we can wait for the grades.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say I would agree. There are a couple matchups here, right? Like I fully expect Dustin Rhodes to just clean the floor with Bryan Danielson.
Exactly.
Yeah, Dark Order's 10 is going to be John Moxley. Yeah, it's right. There are a couple layups here. You would think, unless they've got some cool twists and surprises.
Yeah.
You'd think it's pretty much a layup for a couple of the matchups. A couple though, you don't know how they'll go. And I will say that based on how this is laid out, I think the semifinals are going to be interesting, right?
Yeah.
I could see them going a couple different ways with the semifinals. So, and then who ends up winning? It's a whole thing. So I don't dislike it. I am a little surprised about the lack of a couple of names, namely CM Punk and Adam Cole.
Mm-hmm.
That did surprise me a little bit. I understand Adam Cole is kind of doing his thing with the Super Click, and that's fine. You want to ease him into it, have him kind of just hang around with the Elite and all of that. Nothing wrong there. But Punk right now has kind of just been going through the motions, kind of working his way up the roster. Darby Allin also nowhere to be seen here. So I guess I am a little surprised that many.
Well, even MJF.
Big names. Yeah, MJF's out, right. Yeah, like there are a lot of big names that are not listed here that are replaced by names where it's like, it's cool you're here, but why? You know what I'm saying? Right. Is that your feeling as well?
Yeah, a little bit. And it's kind of funny to mention that, because as I look at all of the people in this right now, I'm like, all right, I feel absolutely most confident that Ten's just going to get waxed by Moxley for the most part, right? He's done. But then, as we've just been talking right here, right now, the storyline played out in my head where I don't think this is going to happen, but I could see this being pretty damn interesting, where let's say you have 10 run the gauntlet, win the whole thing, Pat. Hear me out. Hear me
okay,
out.
All right. You are on thin ice, but I'm hearing you out.
You really just try to get 10 over, work his way through this tournament, and then later on in the night, Hangman wins. Then you have a Dark Order guy, 10, who just gets through Moxley, either Cassidy or Hobbs, and then let's say anybody on the other side aside from Dustin as well. I mean, you make him look way stronger than we would ever imagine. And then he takes on Hangman with the ties of Dark Order there. I think that's a pretty great storyline. I don't think that's happening at all, but that'd be pretty fun.
No, I mean, we might be getting crucified as we speak right now talking about this, but I would agree. In terms of that would be a fun storyline. I think the best wrestling storylines are the ones where you book it in a way that nobody saw coming, and it's executed so well that it's not just like, oh, they booked it. Yeah, yes. I mean, I think that's probably the best in recent memory of just a fantastic run, a guy that totally deserved it. And that whole, like, he got that moment from the Elimination Chamber, ran with it, and was just booked near perfection. Yes. I think when you can pull that off, those are the best stories. So for me, I would love to see that if they could properly book 10 to win all of these. I just don't see it. Like
Yeah.
I think if 10 runs the gauntlet, everyone's going to be like they just did that to purposefully like throw in a twist. And that's you can't have
Right.
that. So yeah, there's no way that's happening. If it could be booked correctly, it'd be something. But yeah, it's I would imagine you're right that 10 is going to get trashed. I would love to see somebody get a kind of unexpected push.
Hmm.
I don't know who that would be, right? It depends, again, as you mentioned, whether Hangman versus Kenny, who wins that match, because that could change the dynamic of some of these matchups. But either way, I am excited overall about this bracket, even though you've got one or two like, oh, okay, they're almost certainly going to get rolled over. Um, I would give this a. I'm going to give this a B. I'm going to give it a B minus though, just because I feel like even if you have them lose by DQ or what have you, I think if you replace 10 and I mean I love him to death, but Dustin Rhodes with well no actually Dustin Rhodes is perfect against Danielson. That makes a lot of sense. But I don't know, like Eddie Kingston or Hobbs, any of these guys, you put in Cole and Punk in the mix, right? Think about how crazy this bracket looks if you replace 10 with Adam Cole and Eddie Kingston with CM Punk. And think about just how ridiculous that is. And then you could always have them lose by DQ or some crazy what have you. But
AEW doesn't do DQs, Pat. Come on.
I mean, yeah, that's not a thing that they do. I mean, that's true. I do appreciate them not doing DQs as much as other places, but yeah, I mean, I think you could mix it up a bit. But then again, what are you gonna do? I guess you got, and I guess Darby versus MJF is in the works, right? That's certainly gonna happen, and I'm sure they'll do something with Punk and Cole that'll be good. But I don't know. That I give it a B. I'm gonna give it a B minus. What do you say?
Yeah, I'm kind of right on board with you there. I'm going to say a solid B though, because the more that I look at it, and how things are going to end up playing out, just to get into predictions, maybe Pat, of how we think this will go down. Because why not, right? Why not?
Right.
I think it's pretty clear, especially after this last episode, that they set up Cassidy and Moxley because Mox went right through Yuta Wheeler. Or Wheeler Yuta, right? I get his name mixed up.
Right.
But
yeah.
And Cassidy was out there all sad about it. So that's happening. And I think that's going to be very fun. I think that Orange is going to, not going to beat him, but he'll make it fun as he always does. And then the toughest one for me to pick, though, is on the other side between Archer and Kingston. Sounds like you might be a little bit more confident in Archer going through it there. And I love Lance Archer. I think he should, be very, very tough to beat here. And I hope that we see him and Danielson, but are you sold on him just getting right past Eddie?
I am, just because I think it'll be a great match, right? But when you look at the way they've built Archer and everything he's done, and you look at how they've built Kingston, I feel like Archer is much more of a bigger threat to Danielson, right? Because again, I love Dustin Rhodes, but if Danielson loses in the first round, like that's gonna be, I really want to know how they plan on pulling that off booking wise. But yeah, so if you've got Danielson versus Archer, think about how, especially with how physical Danielson has been and how they've made Lance this giant monster. Like I think that's the perfect matchup. Kingston versus Danielson would also be fantastic, but I think especially for a tournament and just the way they've booked both Lance and Danielson, I feel like that's going to be the matchup.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. And I mean that's what I predict too, is Archer to go through and take on Bryan. It reminds me of like the good version of maybe not the good version, like the best possible version of Daniel versus Big Cass. If you remember that fantastic rivalry, sarcasm. But I think that should be awesome. So in the semis, I think it'll be Archer and Danielson for sure, and then Cassidy and Mox on their side. That one seems to be pretty set up. Pretty clear, which is all right. It'll be fun, like I said. And then in the finals, I think obviously is Moxley Danielson as well.
Yeah,
that's a great match.
right. The only way I see that not happening is some interference where Danielson loses, right? Like cheap shot or something. If they want to set him up with somebody else, and then you can kind of do the Moxley Archer, reignited feud, and that. But that would tell me also that Moxley almost surely would win. I would imagine. Yeah, I mean, I think you probably get Danielson versus Mox, and then that's a fantastic fight, and that's a tough one. And this plays into, again, like, who ends up with the belt
Right.
at Full Gear. If Omega wins, then yeah, it has to be Danielson, right? Like, there's no way they go through all that and then Danielson doesn't win and you get that. If Hangman wins, I could easily see Mox being the case and having Omega or something interfere, and it's this whole other side thing. My guess would be that you're going to end up with Danielson winning, and then I think he'll fight Omega. That's where I'm going there, but I don't know. I think Danielson wins the tourney at least. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you're getting into the other side of things there,
Right.
Pat, which is hard not to with this, but that is an entirely separate video that we could do. Yeah, well, I guess we have to kind of touch on that a little bit. So I think that this will be Hangman's time, just when you kind of look at the story he's been building for like a year now and over and all that. So ultimately, I'm just going to fall back to 10 running this thing, actually. Sorry, I'm flipping my mind. That's what I want.
I mean,
honest,
yeah, I would
think that'd be amazing.
I honestly, I would think it would be great if 10, if you ended up with 10 and Dustin Rhodes in the final. I think that would be fantastic. I would love to see. Honestly, I'd love to see Dustin Rhodes somehow get a title shot and win and be AEW champion. I think that'd be amazing.
I'm gonna take. I'm actually gonna take Moxley to win the whole thing, and I'll tell you why. It's because I think it'll be. Again, it does hinge on the title fight, but I think it'll be, or they'll maybe feel that it's too soon to give Bryan, that shot against the top guy again. Having had that Kenny match a couple weeks ago or whatever. And I think that's the exact reason why Cole and especially Punk are not in here, because maybe feel it's too soon to throw them right into this mix, Let them keep having some fun with what they're doing before getting a little bit more serious, right? So that's kind of how I feel about those guys you mentioned earlier. And a little bit Bryan in that, but you kind of had to throw him right in the deep end. But I just I don't know if we'll get him to the exact title match. So and Mox is a guy that can lose to the champ right now a lot easier. Maybe there'll be some foul play with that, maybe.
And I mean, you could easily, you talk about somebody causing distraction, it could be something along the lines of, if you book it a particular way where you got Omega versus Hangman as the main event, right? Then during the finals match, which I assume is also on this card, is on Full Gear. Then you have Omega run in and distract Danielson or do something to then give Moxley the win. I could easily see that. So that's true. I'm kind of right now that I'm thinking about it. But then again, Omega versus Danielson is pure money for the belt on the line. So it's hard for me not to look at that and say, well, but yeah, I mean, my heart wants one thing, which is Hangman to win. But my business mind is also thinking Omega versus Danielson is gonna be a bigger draw. So I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. But
that's the excitement of it. We don't know. Pat, so many avenues it can go down, and we know that the right answer is with the Dark Order making it all the way through here and holding all the belts.
Just becoming belt collector is new. The new belt collector is Dark Order's 10. That would be one of the greatest feats ever pulled off if Tony Khan decided, let's just do this and see what happens.
Send them through.
Hey, I got money to spare. Let's do this. That would be fantastic. All right, let us know what you think about the bracket itself. Is this the type of bracket you want to see from AEW? Are you upset that Cole and Punk and Malachi Black and MJF and all those guys, Darby Allin, aren't involved? who do you think is going to end up winning this whole thing? We've given our predictions. Let us know your grade of the bracket as well as who you think is going to take it all and end up challenging for the belt. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, bell notification. And yeah, I mean, I'm just excited for this tourney. I hope it's as good as it looks on paper. That's, I hope these matches deliver and that Dark Order's 10 finally gets the title shot that he deserves.
Recognition that he's been demanding since he entered the company.
Yeah. Come on.